A very good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Thursday morning webinar series. My name is Chloe Tetra. I'm the health coach here with ReadyCare. You'll have to excuse my non-appearance on camera today as I've ran out of contact lenses. And there was a difficulty with the delivery, so I'm stuck wearing my very, very broken glasses and with my head glued up to the screen, which is something that I will spare all of you seeing. So for this morning's webinar, we're going to be looking at the topic of men's hormonal health. Now, this is all part of Men's Health Month, and a lot of you will be familiar with the campaign like Movember. So it's all about really checking in on men's physical, mental and hormonal health. Now, I've gone and done an awful lot of webinars in the last month due to October's mental health awareness campaign on the mental health aspect of it. So for today, I'm going to go back into the kind of hard science physical aspect of things. We'll have a look at hormones more specifically. So the ones we're going to touch on are things like testosterone, cortisol, and insulin. I'll have a look at some of the life factors that can influence men's health. We're going to be looking at diet, exercise habits, and I'll actually have a look at some of the supplements that are on the market, espousing a helping hand with hormonal health. There's a lot of snake oil salesmanship online. So I'll just discuss the ones that have the best evidence-based backing to them. So the three key hormones really that we'll focus on for today, and the three key hormones that are at play when we look at men's metabolic health, things that would be implemented in some particular aspects with some of the conditions associated with the Movember awareness campaign, things like testicular cancer, prostate cancer, would be tied in some ways in secondary causes with metabolic health. Now, the testosterone, cortisol, insulin link is really what we're going to focus on. So testosterone is the one we mostly think about when we think of men's health because it has an awful lot of different jobs around the body. It's vital for energy, it's vital for muscle mass, mood, libido, and levels will decline gradually with age, which is very, very normal, and more sharply, so decline more sharply with poor health. So low testosterone, or low T as it's more commonly known, affects approximately 20% of men. So that's about a fifth of men over the age of 60 and up to 50% of men over the age of 80. So it's something that, God willing, with a long life, you're going to face going forward as a decline in this particular type of hormone that will affect you. So it's a good idea to get familiar with testosterone, what it does, how you can look after it, which we'll chat on a little bit today. So cortisol is your stress hormone. Short-term elevation, remember, isn't particularly bad. It's helpful. It's going to help you to focus. It's going to give you positive stress, which basically helps you to get through small tasks, small attention and focus tasks that require a little bit more focus. So actually cortisol is quite good for that. It's great for driving, for example, driving in places you've never been before. But when you have a chronic elevation of this stress hormone, it can lead to fat gain around the middle. So that apple shape that people talk about, the middle age spread, really isn't real, right? It's all down to your hormones, and why an awful lot of the population tend to get the middle age spread and that we normalize it is that for an awful lot of people, these hormones and hormonal pathways are something that aren't looked into, and they will tend to gradually cause a lot more difficulty as an individual ages. So when you've got your chronically high cortisol, it's been associated with anxiety, because of course, if you're in a hyper-aroused state, when I say hyper-aroused, I mean your nervous system is aroused. So that basically means it's on high alert. So when you have a high alert going into your nervous system, it's going to bring up your experience of anxiety. It's going to disturb your sleep because the more cortisol is going around your system, the more it's basically telling your body on a prehistoric level that there is a signal here that it isn't safe to sleep. So if you're somebody that struggles a little bit with anxiety and disturbed sleep, it might be a good idea to look into your cortisol, particularly if you can see that your stress levels have been high, and that you're starting to find it difficult to lose weight. Now, the thing with cortisol as well is that outside of just stress pathways, it starts to disrupt your immune function. So if you find yourself collecting every cough and cold going like they're Pokemon or football cards, then that's one of the indications that your cortisol levels can be a little bit high. And then your insulin, bingo cards at the ready, that regulates your blood sugar and your fat storage. So when your metabolism is poor, your insulin resistance can set in. That basically means that your body's not responding as well as it would have to the signal of insulin. So it starts more and more and more into the body. That in turn will send a signal to store body fat, organ fat, visceral fat, fat around the liver, and just fat around the body, really, which leads to weight gain and hormonal imbalances because insulin impairs the receptivity of your body's ability to hear and pick up on all of the different chemical messengers that are happening from your hormones. So when your insulin levels are high, it's like a foghorn that's disturbing your other hormones from being heard properly. So your insulin resistance is a key driver of metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes. And that's something that I talk about quite a bit. There's an awful lot of talks on this topic if you want to look through our live library. If you're affected by any conditions like high blood pressure, cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or even sleep apnea or snoring, those are all key tellers that your insulin resistance is starting to set in. Now, that's totally reversible through diet alone. It can take as little as 8 weeks, 2 months, with just very, very little changes. But for the duration of this talk, I'll focus on something other than insulin for once. So how metabolic health affects your hormones. So the belly fat lowers testosterone, visceral fat, so that's fat in and around your organs, your belly, your abdominal region. It converts testosterone to estrogen, right? So if you would have had good levels of testosterone, they're starting to drop, and you've noticed that you have a little bit of belly fat around the middle, a little bit of organ fat. If you've ever been told there's a little bit of fat starting around your liver with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, what that does is it converts your testosterone to estrogen and releases inflammation-promoting hormones. So higher degrees of inflammation in the body, aches, pains, stiffness in the joints, difficulty with your digestion, arthritic type symptoms can start to happen, colitis type, just difficulty with digestion. That's the one that people usually find with the pains and aches, that their inflammatory markers have gone up ever so slightly. So remember, that belly fat lowers your testosterone by converting it to estrogen. Right, so that's very, very important, and why it's a good idea to keep your metabolic health in check, because it will naturally, or unnaturally, I should say, through natural means, start to decline your natural levels of testosterone. So the other thing is stress increases your cortisol. We all know this. High cortisol will disturb your sleep, as I've said, it will weaken your immune system, and more importantly, it will blunt testosterone production. So when you've got your high levels of circulating cortisol levels, not only is it going to bring up your stress, your anxiety, weaken your immune system and make your night's sleep absolutely rubbish, but it's actually going to blunt your testosterone production. It's going to stop all that in its track. So chronic stress will also disrupt your appetite regulation. You're more likely to be hungry, craving carbohydrate-rich foods, sugars, these type of things, and that will bring up your body fat, which in turn, like our first point, will start to again eat into your testosterone and convert it to estrogen. So the poor diet then will lead to insulin resistance, which we chat about a lot. And it basically means when you're craving those high carb foods because of the chronic increases in cortisol levels, your stress hormone, those refined carbs and sugars will elevate your insulin levels, which will contribute to fat gain again. So we're starting this cycle all over again. The cortisol is playing into your craving of carbohydrate foods. That craving of carbohydrate foods is telling your body to store fat. Those stored fats are stopping or they're converting your testosterone to estrogen. So it's this vicious cycle, right? So if you are somebody that you love, or a man that is starting to notice that the middle-age spread is setting in, testosterone levels are starting to decline, weight around the middle is there, cravings are there, anxiety, stress, poor night's sleep, cravings, and inflammation in the body. These are all huge tellers that something's not quite right with your hormones. So your early warning signs in a ready-to-read list would be things like low energy or fatigue, even with sleep, because on a body where there's insulin resistance happening, to really, really put this in hyper simplistic terms, which isn't capturing the whole picture, but just to make it digestible. An individual without any difficulty with insulin resistance will take in foods that convert to glucose, and the body will use that glucose as energy. When your body is having difficulty breaking down those foods, which is what happens when there's insulin resistance, basically the energy pathways aren't going to function super well. So you could be eating high carbohydrate meals, which you've read online, you've read in magazines, you've been told by your PT. These are great to get your energy levels up because they're going to convert down to glucose and your brain's going to use it. They're brilliant. So have a big plate of pasta before you do, some kind of physical labor. If you find you're one of these people that when you eat some food like that, you actually get sleepy, right? What you'd expect to be energized from, and that's things like pastas, rice, potatoes, breads, starchy meals, you actually find yourself that you could almost go for a nap afterwards. That's a huge warning sign that something's not quite right there. So your decreased motivation and confidence, because essentially you need brain energy to have motivation. You absolutely do. I think we always think of it as this psychological discipline. Some people have it, some don't. It's not like that. All of your circuitry is dependent on good energy communication to each part of your body, your brain, your cells, for things to work. So your body is very clever and it's going to start cutting away things that it doesn't see as really important, right? So survival first, everything else secondary. So if you start to see that you just don't really have the energy to be doing things that you might have previously wanted to do, or know in your heart of hearts that you actually do want to do it, but your body's like, look, I'm absolutely knackered. I actually can't cope with going out for a walk with my wife, with bringing the dog. I really do want to, but I'm exhausted. That can be a sign as well that not everything's going super well in the hormonal bank. So low libido or erectile dysfunction. We tend to overlook, men and women, the low libido as stressful period of time, which of course will bring that on as well. So if you're really mithered, if you've got a lot on your mind, if you're very stressed, it's normal for your libido to go down. If you've an extended period of time with low libido, that can be a signaler that your hormones are out of whack. So if it's something that you've noticed, even privately for yourself, that you've noticed is starting to creep in a little bit, that is a sign maybe to go and get your hormones checked. Your body will always tell you, right? Your body will always tell you what's happening. So loss of muscle mass, increase in belly fat, they'd all be signs. Sleep disturbances, sugar cravings, mood swings. An awful lot of these things are put down to aging. But that's only because for an awful lot of the population, as they age, their testosterone levels dip, their hormones go out of whack after decades of a problem that's gone unchecked, and we've normalized it. So if you're ticking the box for an awful lot of these, or someone you love is ticking the box, it just might be worth looking into getting your hormones checked. So lifestyle interventions that work. Now, there are brilliant resources out there for this. A very, very popular YouTuber is Andrew Huberman. He is a neuroscientist who is absolutely brilliant with men's health. He used to be a pro skateboarder and is now a college professor, Stanford college professor, neuroscientist. Brilliant lad. So he delves into men's health quite a lot. Andrew Huberman, Huberman is his name. So lifestyle interventions is his forte. He talks through, different breath works, things you can do in the morning, things that only take a few minutes that will change the course of your hormones for that day. probably a much greater authority on it as a middle-aged man himself than I would ever be. But what I can share with you is a few small tips, 5 of them there real quick. So exercise strength training will boost testosterone. Strength training is anything that involves lifting heavy weights. Heavy weights plus men equals high testosterone. This is where the myth of women thinking they're going to get bulky by lifting weights, and actually it takes them so much more exercise, diet, discipline, etc. to get that bulky look. They usually have to use additional supplementation because we don't have the testosterone involved that creates that type of muscle gain. Men do. So cardio will improve insulin sensitivity, things like walking, etc. They're going to be fine to bring down your insulin. So if you're in a period where you see your insulin's a little bit high, you're having difficulty with belly fat, walking will help. But if you want to increase your testosterone, start weightlifting in any way, shape, or form that is safe for you to do. So you want to aim for 3 to 4 sessions of resistance training per week. You don't have to do an hour and a half, anything like that. 15 minutes to 30 minutes is enough. If you can't do it all in the one fell swoop, you can break it up in the day. Any addition of weight and strength training is going to be better than none. If you can't do the gym, if you can't do X, Y, and Z, get yourself some home weights or a kettlebell. There's lots of free resources online. Start at a low level that you're comfortable with and work up. It is going to do magic for your testosterone levels. Balanced diet, high protein, healthy fats, vegetables, and lower amounts of carbohydrates. You don't have to give up carbohydrates altogether, right? That's something that I always want to say where these things are concerned. It's just about lowering them. You don't want your nutrition to come from primarily carbohydrates. It will not serve your body. Your body is built, the whole you are what you eat. The building blocks of your body are amino acids and proteins. You absolutely need high protein to get hair, skin, nails, muscle, bone density, cartilage. All of these things that are made up in your body need additional proteins to be created. So make sure you're getting adequate protein. If you're not sure what adequate protein is, a rule of thumb is for every kg of body weight, try to get that in grams of proteins. I'll give you an example. If you're 88 kg, try to aim for 88 grams, not kg or k's, of protein per day minimum, right? Try not to fill up on carbohydrate foods. They're absolutely delicious. I'm never going to contest that, but you want to be filling up on foods basically that are going to help your body. If you want something like a potato, sweet potato, rice, pasta, bread, whatever, have it for taste, not as the thing you're trying to fill up on. So try to get a good level of sleep. I know that that's like sometimes depending on where you're at in your life, that's like me saying, try climbing Mount Everest. But really the more sleep that you have, the better recovery you're going to have. Testosterone is released during sleep. So especially during REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. So that usually comes after a few hours of good sleep. So if you notice your testosterone levels are low, if you know from the latest blood works that your testosterone is low, look at sleep as medicine. You're going to really need it for the recovery aspect of things. Now, that includes trying to get at least 7 to 9. I think 9 is, there's people out there that get 9 hours of sleep. I very rarely meet them, and that's me speaking to thousands of people over the last 5 years with ReadyCare. I very rarely have met a 9-hour person. Most of the time, most people are hovering between 6 and 7 hours. But just any move in the right direction for better quality sleep, the better chance you're going to get of testosterone levels coming up. And consistent sleep as well will improve your insulin sensitivity and your hormone rhythms. When your sleep's out of whack, remember, you're going to be craving bad foods. When you're craving bad foods, that's going to bring up your insulin levels, which is going to store your body weight, reduce your testosterone, and get your testosterone actually converted to estrogen, which is what you don't want. Stress reduction, going to be really important to get the cortisol levels down. So whatever that looks like for you. For some people, it's video games, right? And I can say here, try mindfulness, try this and that and the other thing. But for some people, it's going to be, I'm going to watch 3 hours of video game streams. I'm going to listen to 2 hours of political podcasts. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to unplug. And whatever that is for you that lets you unplug, think of it as a necessary part of your week, because anything that brings your stress levels down is going to help your hormonal health. So science-backed supplements, and I'll end it fairly swiftly after, because I know my time, oh, perfect, they didn't come through there. My timekeeping is not amazing with these because I'm always trying to pack as much as possible. So there are lots of rubbish. There is lots of rubbish online, but there are some science-backed supplements, which I'll mention here. So things that can help boost your testosterone levels and impede the barriers like your cortisol and your insulin. So vitamin D is absolutely brilliant. All of us in the Northern Hemisphere, really, unless we've been told not to take vitamin D for whatever medical reason, should be on some form of it in darker months. It's something that we get from the sun, but we don't get it from just exposing our faces. It needs to be on your chest, back, soft skin. So that's things like the inside of your arms and legs. And let's be absolutely honest with ourselves. Most Irish people don't do that, don't get a chance to. So vitamin D supports your testosterone and immune health, especially in darker months. Men that are deficient in vitamin D often have lower testosterone and high insulin. Vitamin D, absolutely brilliant. Go for it. Should be in the press if you're looking at getting your testosterone levels up. Magnesium is going to aid your sleep, your muscle recovery, and your testosterone production. Because remember, the greater your sleep is, the more testosterone you're going to produce. Magnesium is absolutely brilliant to help your body in lots of different ways. I could do a whole webinar just on magnesium alone, but where sleep is concerned, there's lots of different types of magnesium. All are going to help. The best kind is one called biglycinate, biglycinate. And I think it's the only one that starts with a B. So if you see the magnesium type as magnesium plus a B word after it, that's the one that you're looking for. Omega-3s are anti-inflammatory and they'll support your cardiovascular function and your hormonal health. Across the board, they're absolutely brilliant. They're also shown to reduce triglycerides and support your mental focus. So both of them as an overall helper to men's health and women's health, but men's health for today, they're absolutely brilliant. So they're brilliant to do with prostate health. There was a false article it must have been about 8 years ago, so 8 or 6 years ago, that said that omega-3 was linked to prostate cancer, but it was later explained that omega-3, because it's an anti-inflammatory, went to the source of inflammation, which, it's like saying fruit flies cause fruit to rot. But actually it goes to the site where it's needed. So omega-3 is absolutely brilliant for overall health. They're not dangerous for prostate health. They're only going to help. Now, a few different little ones here: ashwagandha, shilajit, and fenugreek. If you're somebody that is into men's health, you've probably come across shilajit supplementation advertised somewhere in your algorithm. So it's a mineral-rich resin used in Ayurvedic medicine, and it's very, very popular at the moment as a testosterone booster. It's brilliant, right? I'm not going on myth-busting with this one. It's actually brilliant. So research indicates that it might enhance testosterone levels and mitochondrial function. Now remember, the mitochondria is responsible for the energy production in your body. If your body is low energy, if your motivation is low, if all of your different functions that need additional energy, it's been that your body's gone, look, we don't quite have it at the moment. We're going to shut down these functions. Anything that boosts your mitochondrial function is going to help. So that's your secondary effects: boosted cognition levels, focus, boosted motivation, as well as just feeling better and all of your body functioning an awful lot better. There's a clinical trial out there that showed a significant increase in total testosterone after just 90 days of supplementation. So it also contains fulvic acid, which supports nutrient absorption and cellular energy. So great for energy, great for testosterone. Ashwagandha then is if I can say it now, we'd be laughing, adaptogenic herb, which lowers cortisol and will increase your testosterone ever so slightly. So it's brilliant for stress reduction as well. So that's a great one to put into the arsenal. And then the fenugreek extract is used in men's health supplementation for increased libido and testosterone levels. So overall, to conclude, because I'm going over my time here as usual, so a few different bits that you can do at work, that you can do at home, very small habits would be things like movement every hour. So you standing desks when you can, take walking breaks. The walking breaks are going to lower your cortisol and your insulin. Remember, they're all tied together. Prolonged sitting is linked to metabolic syndrome, things like all the different conditions I mentioned all the time, but also increased visceral fat. That increased visceral fat is going to convert your testosterone to estrogen and stop your body from adequately producing testosterone. So movement is key. Strength training, if you can manage it 3 to 4 times a week in any way, shape or form, right? For some people, I talk to some elderly gentlemen and their strength training is getting their groceries from the shop, and they will park their car at the further point of the parking lot, and they'll take that as one of their lifting exercises. You can get creative with it. You don't need the best of tools that are going to take 2 weeks to order in. Whatever you have at home, water bottles, rocks, cement blocks, whatever it is, try to include a little bit of movement. So balanced meals, remember you want to have high protein. Use your food to build the body that you want. You can still have all the different types of foods. I'm not saying to avoid carbohydrates altogether, but use them as a tasty counterpart to the food that's actually going to fill you and help to build a body that is going to be functioning in the way that you want it to. Try to avoid caffeine late in the day as well, because your sleep quality is really, 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 really important. So stress reducing tools, whatever that may be, gaming, reading, watching TV, have it as part of your week where it's a non-negotiable, that you have some time for yourself, that you unplug, right? Make yourself unavailable at all, right? For 1 to 3 hours a week in whatever way you want it to be. And get your hormones checked, right? If this is resonating and you're saying, whoops, I'm ticking a few boxes here, you can get your hormones checked. I would encourage to do so at least once a year, right? Hope you found that helpful. If you have any questions, as always, please do drop me a message. You can probably hear the dog in the background now is starting to whinge, so I better let him out. If you have any questions, please do get in touch. I'm just going to pop up my email address as I do sometimes. If you do have any questions, please do shoot me a message. Just a sec there, I'll pop it in. Here we go. So that should hop up on your screen. Shoot me a message if you have any questions on any of that. I'm not a doctor or a nurse. I am a health coach, but if I can point you in any right direction, I'm more than happy to do so. Right. Have a lovely rest of your day, guys, and grow that tat if you're participating in Movember. I'm doing my bit. Have a nice day, guys. Bye now.